Good morning, everyone. My name is Yvonne Smothers, and I'm the program coordinator for New York Urban League pronoun she, her. And we'll get started. I'm going to ask each one of the partners to please introduce themselves. I'm going to turn it over right now to Francis to introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Yvonne, and good morning, folks. Welcome to our third and last virtual community briefing for CCNSF FY26. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. As Yvonne said, my name is Francis. I'm the grants coordinator at the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families, CACF, and we're also another one of the partner orgs for CCNSF. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Kit.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Kit Lau. I am a senior contracts coordinator from CACF, and I use pronouns she, her. And I'll pass it to the other partners.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Garzone. I'm here with the Hispanic Federation. I'm the grants and contract coordinator. Happy to be here, and I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Almirka.
Good morning, folks. Almirka Santiago, Hispanic Federation, and I'm the Vice President for Grants and Capacity Building, and I will pass it on to Mia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mia Winther Tamaki. I am the program coordinator at Asian American Federation, and I'll pass it to my colleague, Daphne.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daphne Tomasula. I'm the Associate Director of Programs at the Federation, and I will pass it back to Yvonne.
So welcome everyone to the CCNSF Communities of Color Nonprofit Stabilization Fund for FY 25-26. Next slide, please. First of all, I'm going to ask you that any questions that you have about any of the sections that are being presented, we would like for you to save your questions until the end. You can drop them in the chat, or at the end when we go to our question and answer session, you may come off of mute and raise your hands and ask questions. But as we go along this process, you may drop your questions in the chat and we will answer them at the end of this session. So a little background about CCNSF. So in 2014, the Hispanic Coalition for American Children and Families and the New York Urban League and the Asian Federation formed an alliance to provide support to Black, Latino, Asian community-based organizations. And from this year, this being our 12th year, the City Council has allotted $3.7 million for the Communities of Color Nonprofit Stabilization Fund. And the purpose of this is to build the capacity of New York City nonprofits serving majority Asian, Latino, Black communities in recognition of the facts that organizations led by people of the community are best equipped to meet the needs of their communities and to promote collaborative learning among community-based organization leaders. Next slide. Okay, so you're wondering, am I eligible for this grant? The eligible nonprofits are as follows. You must be registered with the passport system. You're registered with the New York NYSOAG Charities Bureau. You must have your charities, 501(c) for at least 2 years. New York-based direct service organization serving 75% of New York City residents. Experience currently serving communities with 51% community of color. Demonstrated record of outreach to communities of color for recruitment of executive director, CEO, and board of directors. Your organizational budget, which is very, very important. You must have a minimum of $150,000, but you can have no more than 3.5 million. If you have over 3.5 million in your budget, you are not eligible. If you have under 150,000 in your organization, you are not eligible. So this is the standard criteria. Commitment to equal employment opportunities, commitment capacity for culturally competent services. And please note, organizations that utilize fiscal sponsors, conduits are not eligible. Next slide. Okay, eligible capacity building projects. There are 7. Management information systems design and development, financial management and planning, evaluation and system development, leadership development, new program planning and development, strategy and organizational development, collaboration and strategic alliances. You can request up to 35,000 if your organizational budget is, again, no less than 150,000, but up to 500,000, you request 35,000. If you request 45,000, your organizational budget must be 501,000 to 3.5 million. Again, if your organization is over 3.5 million, you are not eligible. Next slide. Is this my slide? Okay, CCNSF applications have moved online. We used to give paper applications, we used to send them out, whatever, but now everything is online. We are no longer accepting paper submissions. So make sure you get the process done, because even last year I've had people, the system is not working because you wait till the last minute. The system's not working, so I have to submit it to you in paper. No, please make sure you can get your application in online. And the applications are posted on our website, ccnsffund.org, and then go to apply. And you must not apply, you can only apply to one organization. Okay, next slide.
So in regards to the City Council vetting process, the New York City Council will be using a series of metrics to vet each organization that applies to ensure that you're eligible for this opportunity. They'll be reviewing several areas to confirm that you're in good standing and you're in compliance. This includes running various reports to identify any potential violations or negative media coverage your organization may have had, as well as verifying that your organization's tax exempt and incorporation status are up to date through the IRS and the New York State Corporations databases. I advise you all to take note of these areas and take some time to ensure your organization is in good standing. You know, do a Google research of your organization to ensure you're eligible to receive this sort of funding. Next slide, please. The City Council will also be doing a deep dive on the consultants and vetting them as well. The consultants are vetted every year because a lot can happen in a year. They can run into compliance issues or find themselves in other situations that can impact their eligibility. During this specific vetting process, the City Council will review several sources to check for any red flags, any negative news related to your consultant. This also includes verifying their registration with the State Attorney General's office and even completing a social media search. If the City Council identifies any issues during their review, your consultant could be disqualified, so it's always a good idea to have a backup consultant ready just in case. Next slide.
When you're thinking through your expenses for your CCNSF proposed project, there are some parameters to keep in mind. The City Council has spending caps on certain categories like salaries, fringe, consultants, and tech. For salaries, the expenses that you allocate for your proposed project cannot exceed 30% of your awarded budget. And for fringe benefits, they cannot exceed more than 15% of the salary expenses. For your consultants, the expenses cannot exceed more than 60% of your awarded budget. And for tech, computer, hardware, software, tech is capped at 30% of your awarded budget. And please know that there is no indirect rate that can be claimed under this grant, as well as overhead. And overhead includes rent, utilities, and also admin fees cannot be claimed under the CCNSF grant. Next slide, please. What we are looking here is a budget that an organization might craft based on their 35,000 award. And this organization has used the maximum caps for salaries, fringe consultants, and they also meet the requirements of the spending caps. So for salaries, you cannot allocate more than 30% of your award budget. So 30% of this award budget, which is 35,000, is 10,500. And fringe and consultants, if you calculate it, that is the maximum amount that you can allocate if you have a 35,000 award. And keep this in mind. Of course, your budget for your proposed project may not look the same as this sample budget because you can allocate up to 30% of your award for salaries. You can allocate up to 60% of your award for consultants. So your percentages might be different from this sample budget, but we wanted to show this budget to you if you were spending the maximum cap amounts. Next slide, please. The CCNSF budget template is made up of 4 categories. And I think that salaries, fringe, they're very straightforward. Consultants as well. The 4th category is OTPS, which is other than personal services. And these are expenses you will allocate under the OTPS category if it's non-salary and non-consultant. So some examples of OTPS costs can be tech. And just keep in mind that tech is up to 30% of your award budget. OTPS costs may also include food, meals, if you have trainings or workshops or events that support your proposed project. It can also include space rental if it's a third-party venues or external spaces, which is not your office space. So there could be many costs that are made up in OTPS. And if you have any detailed questions, like reach out to the organization that you are applying to. Next slide, please. So when you're crafting your budget for your proposed project, you will fill in these line items on the Excel template. These line items is a description of your expenses and the expected costs, right, under the amount category. So focusing on the OTPS, just expanding on that more, you see supplies, right? Here it says materials for workshops. That is allowable for OTPS expenses, anything that will support trainings. And space rental, as mentioned, if you're holding events, seminars, workshops in your own office space, then the rent for that office space for these type of trainings, it cannot be claimed under the CCNSF grant. But if you are holding it in an external space, separate from your office, you can claim that expense. Again, keep in mind that overhead and admin fees are not allowed to be claimed under CCNSF. And the last line item is meals, food, refreshments, anything that supports your workshops and trainings can be claimed under CCNSF. Next slide, please.
So as you're identifying consultants for your project, I recommend to keep in mind the following guidelines. Consultants cannot be an existing staff member of your organization, a current or former intern, a family member, or anyone related to your staff or your board members. Additionally, the consultants should not have an email address issued with the organization. They should not be on your payroll. They should not be receiving any form of benefits from the organization. Make sure you're doing your due diligence, meaning properly interview your consultants. Make sure you're checking references. Ensure that all of the information is accurate and up to date. As mentioned in the budget portion of the presentation, the total consultant expenses cannot exceed 60% of the total award. And lastly, all of the proposed consultants must submit their current documentation. As mentioned, they'll be undergoing an in-depth vetting process as outlined earlier. The key is to be thorough when selecting your consultant. It'll ensure a smooth review and approval process from the City Council. Also, you're more than welcome to use the same consultant as you have done in previous years, but as a reminder, they're still going to be vetted, so that's just something to keep in mind. Next slide. And as you complete your NSF application, please keep in mind that you'll have to provide specific information about your proposed consultants. The application is going to ask you for their resume or their company profile, their contact information, as well as a brief description or your rationale as to why you're choosing them for your capacity building project. Next slide. And here are some tips for engaging with your consultants. It's important to view your consultant not only as an asset, but also as a collaborator. You want someone that's bringing valuable expertise and they're helping to strengthen your project. Here are some key points to keep in mind. You want to make sure you're setting clear expectations from the start. Make sure you're outlining your project requirements and deliverables. As you're interviewing your candidates, make sure their experience and expertise align with your project goals and needs. Second, you want to ensure that your consultant provides you with all the necessary documents and you have them ready as you're going to submit your application. The vetting process can take some time, so it's best to avoid any delays in regards to the documentation being not filled out properly. It's also a good rule of thumb to have a backup consultant in mind in case your primary consultant doesn't pass the vetting process. And lastly, make sure you're keeping an open line of communication with your consultant. Make sure you're scheduling regular check-ins with them. Treat the relationship as a partnership. Remember that they're bringing external expertise and knowledge. So again, collaboration is key. Also, a quick note, on the CCNSF website, there is a consultant directory list that's made available that you can use as a reference. This is not a list that the partners here at NSF endorse or recommend. even if the consultant has worked with the other agencies in the past, they still need to go through the full vetting process. So again, please do your due diligence to find someone that really aligns with the overall goals of your project. Next slide.
So here are some important dates to remember for the CCNS timeline for fiscal year 26. The request for applications are open now, and there is a deadline. The deadline is October 17th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today is actually the last community briefing. We've had 3, and this is the 3rd and final one. Your apps will be reviewed during November 2025. And so these next couple bullet points are for organizations that are awarded. And if you do accept the award, CCNSF contract does require the awardees to submit an interim report and a final report. The interim report will be due on April 2026, and the final report is due on July 2026. You must spend out your full award by June 30th, 2026, and there are no exceptions to this. And CCNSF awardees must take a minimum of 3 capacity building training sessions during the training period or during the period between January and June 30th, 2026. And the topics of these classes and workshops will be provided to you during the contract period. Next slide. Here's some resources where folks can go to learn more about the CCNSF fund. We strongly recommend checking out the CCNSF website, which is constantly updated and has all the important information that you will probably be looking for. There's also a pretty robust FAQ page. As Michelle mentioned, there is a consultant list, so please feel free to reference that. It is designed to be a tool to help in the research process. And there will also be samples regarding the project budget. And please note that today's recording of the session will be posted to the website. I believe it will also be emailed out. And the website should also contain the recordings from the other 2 sessions. Next slide. Here is all the contact information for all of the CCNSF partner organizations. You can see the primary contact is listed here. This is also going to be on the CCNSF website. So please feel free to reach out ahead of time if you have any more specific questions or if you just want to meet with us separately. Yeah, keep note that the deadline for the application is on October 17th. So the earlier, the better it is to reach out. Next slide. So now we will begin the Q&A session. Please feel free to drop all of your questions in the chat. I will just be reading out the questions that I see pop up and fielding them to my colleagues here. So I think our first question that I see here is, if our organization is not already registered for Passport, can we still apply? I believe the Passport registration process can take some time. Does anyone with CCNSF have an answer for this?
So a requirement for this initiative is to be registered for Passport. This is one of the main areas that the City Council will be vetting for. They want to ensure that your organization is compliant with all the city regulations. So yes, it is a necessity for this grant.
Thank you. And we have another question. Is hiring consultants required for our capacity building project?
I'm not understanding that question.
Zach, can you clarify your question?
Yeah, so if we come up with some capacity building project for our organization, do we have to hire outside consultants to help us achieve it, or could we just get funding and do this capacity building project without having to hire these outside consultants?
The assumption for this initiative is that the expertise doesn't exist in-house. Therefore, typically, because it's more of an exploratory initiative and not necessarily implementation, the consultant for the majority has been a necessity. If you feel that there is a project that, again, aligns with the purpose of this initiative, I would recommend to just have a one-on-one so that you can, pitch it and see if it would be feasible within the parameters of the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have a question asking what other attachments are needed beside the budget sheet when submitting the application?
Well, when you go into the application, it will tell you the attachments that are necessary for each section of the application.
Okay. And is there a word limit when it comes to the application?
That will vary based on what partner you're applying through. So as Francis responded, if you're able to clarify which NSF partner you're applying through, we'll be able to provide you with a response. But if not, James, you can also feel free to reach out to us directly to clarify.
I would say take a look at the application, right? So that you're able to see the questions that are being asked. That's going to mirror the documentation that'll be submitted. Documentation is also for the vetting process, right? Because this initiative has parameters with budgets. The organizations have to have a minimum of and a maximum of, like all of that is verified with the documentation that we are requesting and ensuring that you are an established 501c3, etc.
Great, thank you. How do we best determine which partner to apply through?
Hey Mia, I can answer that question. So when you go on the CCNSF website and when you click on apply, you'll notice a brief description. So just to re-clarify that. So if your org primarily serves the Black community, then you would apply through New York Urban League. If your org primarily serves the Hispanic Latinx community, you would apply through Hispanic Federation. If your org primarily serves the AAPI community, then you would apply through the CACF portal. So again, you're only allowed to apply through one portal, one application portal. And again, it's based on which community your org, excuse me, primarily serves. Hope that helps, but feel free to ask for additional clarification.
Thanks, Francis. Are there any other questions that folks have? Also, please feel free to raise your hand if you have something you'd like to inquire about. I'm not. Oh, okay. Is it required to register for vendor enrollment?
Hey, Daniel, could you re-clarify your question a little? We're trying to think how to answer this, so we'd appreciate a little clarification from your end.
Yeah, there's an 8-question vendor enrollment questionnaire along with documentation and contact information. I was just curious if that was a required part of the process to kind of complete that as registering for the part.
I'm sorry, Daniel, could you repeat yourself again? I think you were going in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. There's like that 8-question vendor questionnaire in addition to documentation to upload, as well as basic information and contact information. I was just curious if that was that's kind of an additional component after already registering for the passport. And so I was just curious if that was also required as part of the process.
Hi, Daniel. I don't believe so. I think your organization is required to be registered with passport, but we haven't heard anything about vendor enrollment paperwork needing to be submitted. But you can reach out to us one-on-one to double check.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We have another question. Can our overall budget exceed 45K, but 45K is paid by the CCNSF grant? Clarify if
Oh.
the overall organizational budget is 45K, or are you referring to the project itself?
Good morning. I'm referring to the project itself. If we decide to do a more expansive project than just 45,000, can 45 of that be paid by the grant or the program?
I would say yes, as long as you're reflecting how you'll be utilizing the 45K specifically granted through the NSF initiative on the budget form, that should be fine. And indicating that the rest will be able to be paid directly by the organization.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This is a great opportunity to learn more with the deadline coming up. So if they're CCNSF partners, should we move forward if there's no questions? Oh, I see one more question. Yes, these slides will be shared with everyone along with the recording. And it looks like Priscilla wants us to repeat the response to the last question.
I think they're referring to the budget question. Yes. So again, your overall project could be more than the 45,000, but if you're able to share via the budget spreadsheet how you'll be utilizing this particular 45 for the project, that should be fine.
Great. Do the questions have to be in business? Have to be business a minimum number of years?
I don't think there's a minimum number of years that they have to be in business as long as they're registered with the New York State Attorney General's office. That should be okay. But again, I do recommend reviewing all of the requirements for the consultants, so to ensure that they have all the required documentation in order to be eligible.
Thank you. And Priscilla asks about the 45K budget if they will get reimbursed for over 45K.
Hi, Priscilla. The maximum an organization can request for, depending on their org budget size, is 45,000. So if your overall project is more than 45,000, but if your award is 45,000, you can only get reimbursed up to 45,000 and not more than that.
Thank you. And Abigail asks if this grant only covers outside consultants.
To clarify,
Yes.
your consultant has to be an outside source. They cannot be a current staff member, a current intern, or have any relation to the organization. If the relationship is too complicated to explain, we recommend you looking elsewhere.
Thank you. Any other questions? Abigail asks a clarifying question. Does it cover projects without any consultants?
As my colleague mentioned earlier, the expectation is that this project is currently, you currently need outside expertise to ensure that this project is successful. So we highly, highly recommend to incorporate a consultant as you submit your application.
Thank you. Okay, well, it seems like questions are slowing down, and are the CCNSF partners okay with moving forward and ending the session soon?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, one last question. What industries have been funded thus far? Can you clarify what you mean by industries, Charles? Or Charles, if you can come off mute to answer that question, or if any of my colleagues know how to answer that question. Oh, for example, real estate, food, social services.
Hey Charles, I can try to answer it, and I'll also let the other partners chime in. But typically, the awardees that we work with through CCNSF, these are folks who do a variety of work that directly serves and impacts the communities. So, in terms of types of orgs, it could be social services, it could be education, it could be arts and culture, it can be housing, pretty much a variety of different types of community-based orgs we work with. Just keep in mind that, again, as you're browsing through the CCNSF website, you're looking at the specific criteria along with some frequently asked questions. Again, the importance of this fund is that this fund is serving everyday New Yorkers, and more importantly, serving the communities of color, regardless of what type of org you may be um, what your org does, as long as it's directly serving the people, the communities, surrounding neighborhoods, etc. Um, Hopefully that answers your question a little, but just again, if that gives you a little bit of reassurance that, again, there's no limitation on what type of org you have to be. Again, we work with a variety of different orgs, and as long as it's serving directly the New York City folks and directly to the communities of color, um, the rest, again, you can try to look through our website, and also this can help you draft and formulate your thoughts for your application. Thank you, Mia.
Thanks, Francis. Okay, well, if that's all the questions, we can go ahead and close out the session. Thank you again so much for joining us today. This was the third and final information briefing session for the CCNSF Fund. Please keep an eye out for recordings and slides. They will be coming in a follow-up email, but definitely be sure to check the CCNSF website. The recordings will be there, and in addition to a lot of other information and FAQs and contact information. Please remember that the deadline is October 17th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have any questions, there's also contact info there, and please feel free to reach out, and we can give you some more personalized information if that's needed. Yeah, thank you so much all for being here. We really appreciate your time. And thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.